Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, May 11th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. With rents and home prices skyrocketing, San Diego is facing an affordable housing crunch. And now plans are in the works to transform more than 2 blocks of state-owned property downtown into a major new housing and retail development. Here's KPBS reporter John Carroll.
Renters and home buyers are finding living in San Diego just seems to get more and more expensive. The San Diego Association of Realtors says the median price of a single-family home in the county has now reached $1 million. And things aren't any better for renters. An apartment market service finds an average-sized apartment, about 900 square feet, now goes for $2,756 a month. Against that backdrop, an executive order signed more than 3 years ago by Governor Newsom is about to have an impact on housing prices here. The order says the state must do everything it can to turn excess state-owned properties into affordable housing.
Its location is really critical because to get affordable housing in the downtown market is increasingly difficult.
Here's the location San Diego Housing Federation President and CEO Stephen Russell is referring to, a large 2-block parcel at the corner of Ash and Front. It also includes a state building at 1350 Front Street that will be demolished. A big piece of land on which to build, but what exactly the project will look like and how much affordable housing it will have, we don't have that information yet. But Russell says the location has exciting possibilities.
It's close to a lot of opportunities. I mean, everything from folks who are building maintenance managers to grocery store clerks to office workers.
The state and city have awarded the development contract to a large national firm, the Michaels Organization. Russell says it's critical that at least 20% of the development's housing be affordable because the region faces some daunting numbers when it comes to having an adequate supply.
Yeah, I mean, we produced, I want to say 1,600 affordable units in the last year. Which was a banner year, but we need 170,000 in the next 8 years. 170,000.
The State Department of Housing and Community Development says the project is expected to be mixed use, combining office space, retail, and other commercial uses, along with the residential piece. John Carroll, KPBS News.
The question of how to reduce traffic, fix roads and bridge infrastructure, as well as expand on public transportation, continues in San Diego County. And SanDieg is looking to gain more support to pay for its $160 billion project, proposing a half-cent county sales tax increase. Today, the organization called Let's Go San Diego turned in collected signatures to the registrar's office to get the increase placed on the November ballot. Let's Go San Diego and others who support the increase say it's worth it for the improvements, while others say it will only hurt working class families.
What's being proposed within this initiative doesn't really match with what the vast majority of commuters in San Diego County need.
San Diego has a long history of money sometimes not being spent on what it was promised, and so this particular initiative is going to lock in those promises by law and make sure that there's citizen oversight so that they can watch politicians spending that money to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do.
The tax increase would need just over 50% of the vote to pass in November. Inflation is decreasing, but likely not enough for you to notice the difference at the cash register. That's according to a new consumer price report out today. While the peak may be behind us, we are still grappling with high prices at the pump and supermarkets. Gloria Pazmino explains.
A bit of a reprieve, at least for now. The U.S. inflation rate declined for the first time since August. And while prices still increased, it's happening at a slower pace than in previous months.
I'm a little hesitant to call it good news because we don't know, of course, where it's going to go in the next few months.
According to new Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers released Wednesday, the consumer price index was up 8.3% in the 12 months ended in April, a decrease from the 8.5% recorded in March, which marked the highest inflation level in more than 40 years. The numbers suggest the inflation peak could be behind us, but major global events continue to shake up the economy.
Of course, the war in the Ukraine that Putin is waging is having an effect on energy prices in particular.
That means Americans may not feel an improvement in their wallets just yet. Housing, food, and plane tickets saw some of the steepest price increases.
Gas prices are higher today than they were a few weeks ago. Families are paying over $150 in many cases to fill their vehicle, and they're angry about it.
America's fighting on two fronts. At home, it's inflation and rising prices.
The pressures that have kept inflation rising for months are still strong, a problem for American households already strapped for cash. In New York, Gloria Pasmino, KPBS News.
It's a grim projection and one Americans are bracing for. Health officials have been warning about a potential wave of COVID-19 cases starting in the fall, estimating 100 million new cases. In preparation, the Biden administration is pushing Congress to approve more relief funding. COVID cases are trending up in most states. 43% of cases are made up of the BA2 subvariant. Here in California, Dr. Eric Topol says the BA2 subvariant makes up about 25% of cases, will become dominant, and is even more infectious than what we have seen before.
Because it's so infectious, the people who haven't been boosted, the people who haven't been vaccinated, they're still highly vulnerable. That's why we have to have our guard up. And we're not through with this pandemic by any means because of this current wave of the subvariant.
The latest numbers provided by the CDC show about 2/3 of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated with at least initial shots. 31% have been boosted once and 10 million have been boosted twice. Padres manager Bob Melvin will be taking some time off to get surgery on his prostate. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers spoke with a local doctor who says it's a good reminder of how important screenings and prostate exams are for men's overall health.
San Diego Padres manager Bob Melvin says he'll have prostate surgery today, but hopes he won't be out for too long. Melvin says doctors don't think he has cancer, but they won't know until after the surgery.
It's going to be prostate surgery, so is what it is. Our timetable is hopefully at the longest. I just missed this road trip. I hope it's shorter than that, but that's probably the timetable.
Many people have forgone prostate exams and screenings during the pandemic, but they're important. That's according to Kaiser Permanente's Regional Chief of Urology for Southern California, Dr. Eugene Rhee.
There are still patients very reluctant to come in as far as that's concerned. And so if they don't come in, they can't get a blood test, right? The PSA, which stands for prostate-specific antigen. It's a protein we measure in the bloodstream. It's a screening test for prostate cancer.
Melvin says he's been feeling various symptoms since the team returned from a road trip last week. Rhee says there are ways to get ahead of reactive care like surgery by improving prostate and overall health.
Having a really strong network of friends and family with, exercise and movement, and also heavy on the plant-based diet, watching what you eat. Please avoid things that are in a box, processed food. I know that's hard. But these are the things you can do now in regards to overall men's health.
In the meantime, Ryan Christensen is temporarily taking over managerial duties for the Padres. Rhee says men between 50 and 70 years old should get a prostate exam at least every 2 years, and those at higher risk should begin when they're 45. Jacob Ayers, KPBS News.
As expected, a Senate bill that would have enshrined abortion access into federal law has failed. However, Democrats believe holding the vote still shines a spotlight on the potential overturning of Roe v. Wade.
My decision. My decision.
House Democrats marched to the Senate ahead of the failed 51-49 vote on the Women's Health Protection Act. Opponents said the bill is too broad and doesn't include a conscious clause allowing providers to refuse to perform abortions for moral and religious reasons. The San Diego Board of Education has taken a firm stand against any repeal of abortion rights, unanimously passing a resolution to defend health equity and reproductive freedom. As we showed you last night, dozens of high school students rallied outside the school board meeting to support that resolution. And it was co-sponsored by the board's vice president and student board member, Zachary Patterson.
Regardless of if people view us as less intelligent, less experienced, the reality is that when we're faced with something, when we experience something, we're going to want to speak up because it affects us, and that's how democracy is supposed to work, right?
The district plans to launch a more aggressive campaign to inform students of their reproductive rights through social media and other online platforms. Baja California's first legal abortion clinics opened in March. Providers hope this is the start of safe and legal access to abortions on the Mexican side of the border. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis says the clinics are already attracting patients from the United States.
Tijuana is an established medical tourism destination. Americans can get root canals, plastic surgery, even liposuction at a fraction of the prices they pay back home. Now that abortion is legal in Baja California, a medical company called Profem is trying to add abortion to the list, even as reproductive rights face an existential threat in the U.S. with the Supreme Court poised to overturn Roe v. Wade. Luisa Garcia is the director of Profem. She says Tijuana has the potential to become the go-to destination for Americans seeking legal, convenient, and low-cost abortions in Mexico.
Yo creo que Tijuana próximamente se puede hacer como que la capital o algo de la interrupción para todas las personas que quieran venir de otros estados o que lo quieran manejar más discretamente o que lo quieran resolver de inmediato.
In October 2021, Baja California legalized abortions up to 12 weeks of pregnancy and longer in cases of rapes or when a woman's life is in danger. Profem has operated a legal abortion clinic in Mexico City for 15 years. They opened a new Tijuana clinic March 17th. The procedure starts at $200 and there's no waiting period. Garcia says they're already serving patients from border cities in California and Arizona.
Está haciendo San Diego, está haciendo San Isidro, está haciendo Calexico, está haciendo Yuma, está haciendo Catedral, Phoenix.
However, there are several challenges to expanding abortion access in Baja California. Garcia says lack of education is still one of the top issues. Patients often ask if they're breaking the law by having an abortion, or if the procedure will prevent them from being able to get pregnant in the future. Another obstacle has been finding a landlord in Tijuana willing to rent to them. Garcia says Profem was denied a lease because the landlord didn't want to be associated with abortion providers.
Empezamos a ver primero en un lugar y al momento de yo estar solicitando información para hacer la apertura, en una torre médica me dicen no, porque es para interrupción. Aquí no es legal.
Dr. Arturo Posada works at the new Tijuana clinic. He asked me not to take photos of the building or even the waiting room. He doesn't want anyone to harass patients who come in for treatment the way some pro-life groups do in the U.S. The clinic in Tijuana is in an office building with dozens of other medical tenants. There are several buildings in Tijuana like this. Many cater to the already established medical tourism industry. Posada believes women have the freedom and right to decide what to do with their pregnancies. But he recognizes that throughout history, they've been largely denied those rights, not just in Mexico, but all over the world.
De alguna manera nosotros pensamos que la mujer tiene toda la libertad y el derecho de decidir sobre sus embarazos, ¿no? Y siempre lo ha sido, ¿verdad? Más que toda la vida pues ha sido negado para las mujeres servicio y no nomás aquí, yo creo que en todo el mundo, ¿no?
Posada says the two clinics in Tijuana and Mexicali have served about 100 patients since opening. The vast majority are from Mexico. But Posadas noticed a steady increase in women from the U.S. crossing the border to seek his services. He says the numbers are small, but growing each month.
Parece que va incrementándose el número de personas que vienen de Estados Unidos.
The first month it was only 1, then 3. In April, there were 5, even 1 woman from as far away as Texas. And all of this is through word of mouth. The clinic doesn't advertise in the U.S. Arizona and Texas are 2 border states where abortion will likely be banned if the Supreme Court does overturn Roe v. Wade. Posada suspects if that happens, his numbers will keep going up. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria crossed the border today in an effort to boost planning and cooperation with his Mexican counterpart. Gloria and Tijuana Mayor Montserrat Caballero signed a memorandum of understanding this afternoon. The goal is to work together on issues that affect cities on both sides of the border, including sewage flows. $300 million have been earmarked to help clean up the Tijuana River Valley, but an EPA report found it would cost $600 million to fix the problem. Gloria spoke with our media partners 10 News about the issue ahead of today's meeting.
Those dollars have to come from both sides of the border. And so this relationship with Mayor Caballero is really important for her to be able to work with her governor, her president, and for me to work with mine to get the additional dollars necessary to provide relief to the people of both of our cities who have been dealing with this issue for far too long.
The mayors also discussed immigration issues and the impact the pandemic has had on both cities.
Well, we'll start to see a warming trend after a couple of cool days. Warmer in the coast and valleys could also be cool by the time we hit Sunday. And then for next week, we'll see those evening and morning low-level clouds return, especially for the start of next week. So a lot to go over here in San Diego County. Temperatures falling back to some 30s overnight in Ramona, so it's going to be a chilly evening. Escondido, low 40s. Oceanside, 43. San Diego falling back to those double fives. And you're looking at Chula Vista at 49. Barrio Springs tonight dropping down to the lower 50s. We have high pressure building in for our Thursday, so late week for Thursday and Friday. Temperatures will be on a warming trend, and it should be pretty comfortable for you from San Diego to Phoenix. And Futurecast showing you plenty of sunshine all throughout the day on your Thursday, and that's because you get that sinking air with high pressure. So clear skies, loads of sunshine, and those comfortable temperatures. Have lunch outside, dinner outside. It should be very nice. Maybe those clouds coming back early Friday morning. Other than that, things will be pretty nice. But tomorrow, here we go with those temperatures on the rise. 82 for Ramona, Escondido 80 as well. San Diego 77, El Cajon 83, Barrio Springs getting up to 88, Mount Laguna 63. So you'll notice a warming trend. Then the warming trend slows as we head to our Saturday, and then the cooling trend comes back with those clouds that I mentioned for the coastal areas. So all of that reflected in the 5-day outlook, and you can see that as well as you look further inland with that warming trend for your Friday, Saturday as well. And then we're back down to some 80s for Sunday and Monday with those partly sunny skies on Monday. For the mountains, same can be said with that slow warming trend for your Friday and Saturday, leveling out on Sunday, then slightly cooler on Monday with some clouds back in the forecast and across the desert. Well, there's a warming trend, and then it stays pretty warm in the triple digits starting on Saturday all the way through Monday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Michelle Rotella.
A nationwide baby formula shortage driven by supply chain issues and recalls is leaving some San Diego grocery aisles empty and parents scrambling. The shortage has also hit the San Diego Food Bank, adding another stressor for families who are already struggling and rely on them for formula, diapers, and food. The CEO says the last shipment of formula left the food bank yesterday.
We have never experienced this, and we've never seen where we've been completely out of baby formula at both locations.
There is hope the shortage could ease up over the next few weeks. Abbott Nutrition, which makes a number of popular formulas, is making upgrades in order to reopen its plant. 3 brands were recalled because of potential bacterial infections. A price surge at the gas pumps across the country. Prices for gas jumped 17 cents in just 1 week, and they now stand at their highest level ever. Pete Montine reports on whether there is any relief in sight for drivers.
Gas experts are now calling it a crisis from California to Ohio, where in the span of 1 day, a gallon of regular at this marathon station jumped 24 cents.
I'm really noticing it now.
Chris West is paying more than the national average, which hit $4.37 Tuesday, according to AAA. The new all-time high crushed the previous record of $4.33 set 2 months ago.
I'm stretching it out. I'm not going as many places. We tend to take my husband's car, which gets better gas mileage. It's just really a shame that this is where we're at.
The national average has jumped 17 cents in the last week, experts say in part due to the ongoing war in Ukraine. At this station in Long Beach, California, gas is just shy of $6 a gallon.
It's just breaking the bank. I still have to go to work every day, and I'm not making any more money. So all my money is going to gas these days.
Experts think prices will ease over the next month, but relief might not last into what's expected to be a huge summer travel season.
This will be probably one of the most expensive summers ever.
I think July and August is anybody's guess, and there's absolutely no relief in the price for diesel, which is going to be something that infiltrates every nook and cranny of the economy.
Good morning.
Addressing soaring prices Tuesday, President Joe Biden called inflation a top challenge facing families.
They're doing everything in their power to figure out how not to have to show up at the gas pump.
I think it's a shame. I think something needs to be done. We got to get something figured out here. I mean, this is really hard on most Americans.
And that was Pete Montine reporting. Here in San Diego County, gas prices are up just fractions of a cent one day after rising more than 1 cent. The average price of a gallon of regular is now $5.82. That's still well below the record of just over $6, which was set back March 29th.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, how members of the U.S. Senate voted on legislation that would protect abortion rights nationwide. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
If California wants to achieve its ambitious climate goals by 2045, air regulators say that petroleum would need to be cut by 91%. The California Air Resources Board set a deadline to bring California into a carbon neutral position by that year. That goal is one of the most far-reaching in the country and would mean that as much carbon that is put into the air would also have to be emitted. The plan says the state could reach it by reducing oil and gas to power buildings and using technology to capture emissions. San Diego researchers have discovered large pools of ancient water under the ice sitting on Antarctica. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has the details.
This is the first time that scientists have confirmed the presence of groundwater under the massive ice sheet that covers Antarctica. Scripps Institution of Oceanography postdoctoral student Chloe Gustafson traveled to the continent with a small team from San Diego and Columbia University. She says they spent weeks using special instruments to measure the electric and magnetic fields within the ice that can be hundreds of meters thick.
Geophysics at its heart is really similar to medical imaging. It's like taking an MRI of the Earth, just on a larger scale.
Gustafson says the presence of water, some of it in huge reservoirs, could speed up the movement of the ice above it. That would accelerate the continent's ice shedding by speeding up the natural ice flows, and that could raise sea levels. The findings are published in the journal Science. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
There's a new Center for the Arts open in Barrio, Logan tonight. The grand opening is so big, 3 days of festivities are now underway. KPBS education reporter MG Perez shows us the space that will promote learning and provide security for children who need it the most.
Hello, welcome to the Christmas.
This place used to be a car repair garage, and these wooden walls covered in a mural used to house a church, too. But the building at the corner of Main Street and Beardsley in Barrio, Logan is now born again. This is the Chrysalis Center for the Arts, a 6,000 square foot space created to educate the students at Monarch School who find themselves and their families without a secure home environment.
This one is hard because the love that I have for painting and art.
12-year-old Gadetsi is one of the Monarch School students. She prefers to be called Max, the artist name she gave herself.
Sometimes I do my paints crying because I feel I want to tell somebody, but I can't, and this is my only way to help me to express myself and be like, this is what I'm feeling. And I feel way better because I feel like I'm telling somebody.
Max is from Mexico. She's been in the U.S. for less than 2 years and has already learned English. She has an appreciation for art along with the academics.
These are all
done by students.
Elizabeth Pennington is the school's vice president of philanthropy. She has also helped fundraise $1.5 million from private donors to pay for this center that has a dance studio, workshop, and a 100-seat theater. It will also be available to community arts organizations and artists from marginalized communities who have already shown up to teach the students here.
Many of them are like them, look like them, have had experiences like them, and so there's a lot of growth going on, and so that's why we've called our exhibition Metamorphosis.
Max's painting titled Broken is part of the metamorphosis.
Pain is how I express my emotions. So this piece of art is something for someone that passed away in my family, someone very important to me. So how I was broken.
Memories are already being made here. An original version of Peter Pan has been produced on the new stage with plans for much more.
It hints at the process that art requires. Art requires a safe place for you to vision and create and experiment and innovate. You can't turn into this beautiful butterfly without that chrysalis.
Max is well on her way.
I never thought somebody was going to like my art, if I'm being honest. But then everybody was like, hey, I love your art. And I was like, oh, thank you. And now this is happening, and I was like, oh, wow, I think people actually like my art.
MG Perez, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. It's not just housing prices rising. On Morning Edition, how San Diegans are dealing with the costs of home ownership that just keep going up and up. And the nationwide baby formula shortage hits our county. On Midday Edition, hear about the impact on local families and what's being done about it. And as always, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.